There's a reason the quietest person in the room often ends up being the most powerful. And if that person happens to be a Capricorn, you'd better start paying attention. See, people love to underestimate Capricorn. They mistake their calm for weakness, their silence for apathy, their boundaries for coldness. But here's the truth no one warns you about. Capricorn doesn't need to explode to destroy. They only need to disappear. This isn't a zodiac sign that plays checkers. They're playing long-form chess, with karmic consequences built into every move. While you're arguing, they're observing. While you're posting, they're planning. And while you're sleeping on them, they're building something you won't even see coming until it's towering over your life like a mountain you'll never climb. Most people don't realize they've pushed a Capricorn too far, until they feel the absence of what that Capricorn used to give so freely. Support, stability, silence. That now feels louder than any scream. Capricorn doesn't fight for attention. They don't try to prove themselves, because they've already decided. They are the proof. And here's the haunting part. Capricorn won't need revenge. They'll evolve right in front of you. So quietly, so completely, that one day, you'll look at them and realize you don't even have access to that version of them anymore. Not because they're cruel, but because they outgrew the space where your betrayal lived. In this video, I'm going to reveal 12 powerful reasons why messing with a Capricorn is one of the worst decisions you could make, not just in astrology, but in life. We're not talking drama. We're talking legacy. We're not talking rage. We're talking removal. And we're not just talking about signs. We're talking about energetic forces of nature who learned to survive storms by becoming the mountain itself. If you've ever hurt a Capricorn, if you've ever wondered why they vanished without a word, or if you are a Capricorn and you've felt misunderstood your entire life, this one is for you. But before we dive in, warning sign # consider this your warning. Because once you understand what really lives beneath that composed surface, you'll never underestimate Capricorn again. Reason 1. Capricorn doesn't react, they calculate. You think they didn't notice the passive-aggressive comment, the shady tone in your voice, the way you tried to provoke a reaction. But here's where you messed up. Capricorns don't react. They record. They aren't wired to explode. They're wired to observe in silence, to store the data, analyze the patterns, and calculate the long-term cost of keeping you in their life. While other signs might scream, cry, or go on a social media rant, a Capricorn simply gets quiet. And that's when you should be worried, not because they're afraid to speak, but because they're already several moves ahead of you. They're thinking in structure, not emotion. In strategy, not revenge. In legacy, not noise. Let me tell you a story. A client of mine, we'll call her Danny, was a Capricorn executive at a Fortune 500 firm. For months, she was being subtly undermined by a peer who smiled to her face but whispered behind her back in boardrooms. Others told her to confront the man. She didn't. Instead, she documented emails, behavior patterns, missteps. 6 months later, when a massive restructuring happened, she handed her CEO a comprehensive breakdown, clean, factual, irrefutable. He was fired. She was promoted. And when people asked how she pulled that off, her response was pure Capricorn. I didn't react. I just waited for the right moment to speak in facts, not emotion. Capricorns don't need to defend themselves in the heat of the moment. They build the courtroom in silence. They gather the evidence while smiling politely. And when they speak, it's not to argue. It's to finalize the verdict. What most people miss is that Capricorn's silence is not submission, it's study. They're not ignoring what you did. They're deciding if you're still worth their energy. And when the decision comes, it's surgical. It's permanent. It's done. # life lesson from Capricorn. Not every action deserves a reaction. Some things just deserve a conclusion. The next time someone tests your peace, ask yourself, do they deserve your words, or just your absence? Because in the world of Capricorn, the most powerful response is often no response at all, just movement. Reason 2. Capricorn can go ice cold and stay that way. You thought they cared. And the truth is, they did. They just don't care the way you wanted them to anymore. Capricorns don't get cold overnight. They get cold over time, like a winter that was always coming, but you kept ignoring the signs. One moment, you're basking in the quiet warmth of their loyalty, and the next, you're standing in emotional silence, wondering why the sun went out. But here's the truth, the sun didn't die. You just pushed them into shade. Capricorns don't burn bridges with fire. They do it with absence. Clean, quiet, permanent. Let's get real. Most people expect drama when they hurt someone. Screaming matches, long texts, closure talks. But with Capricorn, there's none of that. You'll be mid-conversation, mid-joke, mid-routine, and then it hits you. They're gone. Emotionally unreachable. Energetically missing. Spiritually disconnected. You didn't notice them grieving you while still replying to your texts. You didn't feel them analyzing every word you said behind that poker face. But they did. And when they finally reach their breaking point, you won't hear glass shatter. You'll just feel the temperature drop. I remember a Capricorn woman named Kira. She dated a man for 4 years. Supportive, loving, always showed up. But after 2 years of ignored needs, subtle lies, and empty promises, something changed. One day she looked him in the eyes, smiled, and never called again. No drama, no closure, no warning. Just a cold that said, I no longer belong to this story. And when he tried to come back, she had already become someone new, someone he no longer had access to. This is what people don't understand. Capricorn's love is deep, yes, but it's not blind. And when it ends in silence. Not because they didn't care, but because they finally do for themselves. Life lesson from Capricorn. When peace costs your soul, it's too expensive to keep. Capricorns don't do second chances the way others do. They give space instead of explanations, boundaries instead of begging. And when they choose peace over your presence, that's your warning. You'll never see them rage. You'll never hear the door slam. Because they've already walked out internally weeks ago. The cold you feel now, that's not punishment. That's Capricorn finally choosing to stop setting themselves on fire, to keep you warm. Reason 3, Capricorn's work ethic is stronger than your excuses. You broke their heart. They didn't text you back. They built a company. You disrespected their time. They didn't argue. They went back to work and got promoted. You tried to distract them with drama. Capricorn didn't flinch. They doubled down on their discipline and turned the pain into power. This is what people always underestimate. Capricorn doesn't run from chaos. They outgrow it. And the tool they use? Work. Not just effort, focused, soul-powered, deeply intentional labor. While others seek validation, Capricorn seeks progress. They're not grinding to impress. They're working to honor the promise they made to themselves. To rise. To become unshakable. To build something so solid no betrayal can touch it. There's a story that still gives me chills. A Capricorn man, let's call him Theo, once told me his fiancée left him 2 months before their wedding. No explanation. Just vanished. Most people would spiral, collapse, seek closure. What did he do? He signed up for grad school, launched a business, got in the best shape of his life, and never once reached out. When I asked him why, he said, because I don't invest in confusion. I invest in growth. If someone can leave me without a word, they were never part of my real future. My mission didn't change, only the cast did. That's KT logic. Brutal. Real. Empowered. Capricorns don't drown in disappointment. They transform it into structure. They don't wait for an apology to move forward. They take the hurt, the humiliation, the heartbreak, and turn it into bricks for their next chapter. Their work is not a distraction. It's sacred. It's spiritual. It's how they alchemize pain into progress. You may see them staying late at work, skipping the party, missing the gossip, and assume they're boring, obsessed, or cold. But what you're really witnessing is someone building a life that doesn't need approval to be extraordinary. Life lesson from Capricorn. Don't waste your suffering. Build with it. Capricorn teaches us that effort is not punishment. It's power. That when life betrays you, the best revenge isn't anger. It's achievement. Because while the world watches for a breakdown, Capricorn is quietly building a breakthrough. Reason 4. Capricorn plays the long game while you chase moments. You're sprinting for attention. They're building a legacy. You're chasing trends. They're laying bricks. You want to win today. Capricorn's planning for 10 years from now. Capricorns don't move fast, they move with intention. They don't care who's loudest right now. They care who's still standing when the noise dies down. While you're celebrating temporary highs, they're underground planting seeds. You think they're inactive? No. They're incubating something so real, so unshakable, that by the time you even notice it, it's already unstoppable. There's this incredible Capricorn woman named Lila. In her 20s, she was constantly overlooked. Didn't fit the it girl mold. Didn't post much. Didn't show off. But quietly, she was studying investment strategy, building credit, learning how to read markets, people, and energy. 10 years later, while most of her peers were burnt out chasing visibility, she owned 2 properties, ran a successful firm, and lived debt-free. Not because she got lucky, but because she knew how to delay the dopamine. She once said, "I wasn't building for applause. I was building for freedom." That's KT energy. It's not about being first. It's about being final. Capricorns think in decades. Their goals aren't microwaved, they're marinated. Every move they make is designed to serve a bigger blueprint, one you probably can't see yet. So when you think you're winning because you got attention, clout, or applause, Capricorn isn't threatened. They're patient. Why? Because what's hot today is forgotten tomorrow. But what's real, what's earned, lasts. They're not trying to go viral. They're trying to build something their future self can live inside. And the truth is, you rarely see it coming. Because they don't advertise their next move. They become the move. Life lesson from Capricorn. Shortcuts are for people who don't plan on staying. Capricorn teaches us that real power isn't loud. It's silent, slow, and terrifyingly consistent. Because in a world obsessed with speed, the one who endures becomes the one who leads. So don't mistake their delay for doubt. They're just letting your flame burn out, while they're still collecting firewood for winter. Reason 5. Respect is sacred to Capricorn, and once it's lost, it's gone forever. You didn't even notice it at first. The slight shift in tone, the longer response times, the way they stopped asking how you were doing. You thought things were just off. But Capricorn had already made the decision. You were no longer someone they respected. And once that switch flips, there's no way back in. Capricorns don't give respect freely. They observe. They wait. They earn everything and expect you to do the same. To them, respect isn't just courtesy. It's currency. And when that currency is devalued, they don't fight for the economy. They change the system. You could be talented, charismatic, even successful. But if you lie, if you betray their trust, if you treat people beneath you like they're invisible, Capricorn sees it. Even if they say nothing, especially if they say nothing, there's a quiet moment in every Capricorn's life when the illusion of someone collapses. And when it does, they don't yell. They don't beg. They withdraw. Emotionally, energetically, spiritually. You'll still be in the room, but they'll already be gone. Let me tell you about Marcus, a Capricorn mentor I deeply admire. He once hired a brilliant young designer. Talent through the roof. Fast. Slick. Confident. But Marcus noticed something. She gossiped about teammates behind their backs, blamed others for missed deadlines, and laughed at people she thought were beneath her. No confrontation. No lecture. He finished the contract, paid her in full, and never hired her again. Didn't mention why. Didn't explain. When I asked, he said, "I don't invest in people who fake integrity. I'd rather be quiet than complicit." That is Capricorn justice. It's not loud, but it's final. They don't cut people off out of pettiness. They do it out of alignment. Because once your values don't match theirs, once your behavior contradicts their ethics, you become a liability to their peace. And peace is not something KT negotiates. Life lesson from Capricorn. Don't beg for respect, embody it. Capricorn teaches us this hard truth. You don't lose people when you make a mistake. You lose them when you refuse to grow from it. Because with Capricorn, there's no third strike. There's just a slow, calculated fade out. Until one day, you realize you're outside the circle. And the door never even made a sound when it closed. Reason 6. Capricorn was built in darkness, that's why you can't break them. Some people are raised in warmth, some in noise. But Capricorn was raised in silence. In the cold. In the space where no one asked how they were really feeling. Where resilience wasn't a trait. It was a requirement. You look at them now, calm, composed, powerful, and think, they've got it all figured out. What you don't see is the darkness they had to crawl through to become this version of themselves. The childhood where emotions were a luxury. The relationships that taught them trust was optional. The quiet nights they held themselves together because no one else did. Capricorns didn't become strong by choice. Life gave them no other option. They learned early. People leave. Money runs out. Love isn't always love. So they built their own sanctuary. Inside their mind. Inside their work. Inside their silence. And from that silence came something indestructible. Let me tell you a story about Brielle, a Capricorn survivor. By 16, she was working 2 jobs. By 20, she had no family, no safety net. Just ambition. And pain. She didn't cry on social media. She didn't ask for help. She simply kept going. Today, she owns her own business, built her own home, and still sleeps with a bat under the bed, not from fear, but from muscle memory. She once told me, I stopped waiting for someone to save me. I became the thing I was waiting for. That's Capricorn. Not loud. Not bitter. Just rebuilt. When you try to hurt a Capricorn, you're not introducing pain. You're reminding them of something they've already mastered. You can't threaten someone who survived abandonment. You can't shake someone who lived through betrayal. You can't use silence against someone who finds peace inside of it. They don't just endure the dark. They understand it. Life lesson from Capricorn. Strength isn't forged in comfort, it's carved in silence. Capricorn teaches us that the world won't always love you. So you better learn how to love your own survival. They are the ones who walk through fire and come back with blueprints for how to rebuild the ashes. They don't break. They evolve. And when life tries to test them again, Capricorn already has the answers. Not written in words, but in scars that turned into steel. Reason 7. When Capricorn goes silent, it's a warning, not surrender. You keep talking, explaining, justifying, trying to pull a reaction out of them. But Capricorn has already gone quiet. And that's not indifference. That's not confusion. That's not fear. That's strategy. Because when a Capricorn stops speaking, they're not out of words. They're out of tolerance. Most people misunderstand silence. They think it means nothing is happening. But with Capricorn, silence is when everything is happening. Internally, quietly, lethally. That's when the math starts. When they're calculating the cost of your energy, the patterns in your behavior, and the safest way to remove you from the equation. Not to hurt you, but to protect themselves. There's something deeply unsettling about being in the room with a silent Capricorn. Because they don't glare. They don't flinch. They just observe. And while you're throwing sparks, they're preparing the exit. Not yours, theirs. I once met a Capricorn named Jalen. He had a friend who constantly pushed his boundaries, talked over him, mocked him in public, laughed it off. Jalen never fought back. He just started showing up less, replying slower, speaking softer, until one day, he didn't come back at all. When asked why, he said, "I didn't leave because I was angry. I left because I was done collecting evidence." That's KT power. They don't strike. They exit silently with a full report. And no appeal. You don't know when you're being watched by a Capricorn. That's the danger. You think they're quiet because you won. But they're just watching you reveal yourself. Because given enough silence, the truth always floats to the top. And when the last straw snaps, there won't be a meltdown. No paragraph texts. No closure meeting. Just absence. Capricorn won't slam the door. They'll lock it in silence. While you're still wondering if something went wrong. Life lesson from Capricorn. Energy is currency and silence is Capricorn's way of saying, you've overdrawn. Don't misread stillness for surrender. Capricorn's silence is not a pause. It's a verdict being written in stone. By the time they speak again, it won't be to explain. It'll be to finalize what's already been decided. Reason 8. You won't see Capricorn coming until it's too late. They didn't announce the change. They didn't update their status. They didn't drop hints or post cryptic quotes. They just vanished into the quiet. And when they returned, they were unrecognizable. Stronger, sharper, clearer. And you weren't part of the picture anymore. Capricorn isn't the storm that shouts. They're the pressure system that builds in silence and changes everything. You'll be so focused on the noise, so busy watching the chaos, you won't notice the Capricorn who stepped away quietly to build something you could never take from them again. See, most people want attention. They crave likes, applause, validation. Capricorn, they crave evolution. And evolution doesn't need an audience. They are the ones who disappear for 6 months and return with a degree, a business, a new mindset, and no trace of who they used to be. You were looking for signs. They were working on substance. Let me tell you a story. There's a Capricorn artist I know named Zara. Everyone laughed when she left social media. No presence means no growth, they said. She stayed quiet. Didn't defend. Didn't explain. 2 years later, she launched her gallery, fully funded, independently owned. With buyers lined up before opening day. Someone asked how she did it. She said, "I wasn't building for views. I was building for permanence." That's the Capricorn method. They don't move for show. They move for impact. While others are arguing about lanes, Capricorns building roads. While others are celebrating temporary access, Capricorns securing ownership. And when they return to the spotlight, if they ever do, it's never to compete. It's to replace. You thought you had time. You thought they'd always be around. You thought you could push the limits. But Capricorn doesn't warn you twice. They just walk away and rebuild in a language you no longer speak. Life lesson from Capricorn. Disappear not to escape, but to evolve. Capricorn teaches us this. The best comeback doesn't shout, it shines. And by the time they let you see what they've become, you're not even in the room anymore. So the next time a Capricorn goes quiet, don't ask where they went. Ask what they're becoming. Because if you pushed them to the edge, they didn't fall. They transformed. Reason 9. Capricorn keeps receipts even if you think they forgot. You thought they moved on. You thought the little lie slipped by. You thought that backhanded joke was no big deal. But Capricorn remembers. Not to punish, to protect. They don't keep score with emotion. They collect facts like an investigator building a case. They may nod, smile, even help you move through your mess. But every inconsistency, every red flag, every moment your energy shifted, they logged it, filed it, and tucked it behind that calm exterior you mistook for peace. Capricorns don't jump to conclusions. They build them. And when the time comes, when they finally speak, it's not a confrontation. It's a presentation. You won't hear "you made me feel." You'll hear, "On March 2nd, you said. You told me this, but did that. I stayed quiet, but I never stopped paying attention." No drama. Just undeniable truth. Let me tell you a real-life story from a Capricorn named Julian. He was in a relationship for 3 years. His partner was charming, sweet, but slippery. Tiny lies. Shifting stories. Emotional guilt-tripping. Julian never exploded. He just noticed. And he kept going with life like nothing happened. Until one day, he handed over a single letter. No anger. No accusation. Just a list, dates, examples, broken promises. And the final sentence. This is not revenge. This is record. And I'm now closing this file for good. That's how Capricorn works. They don't seek to expose you. They let you expose yourself slowly, over time. And when they've seen enough, they make the cleanest cut you've ever felt. Because they're not reacting anymore. They're executing the truth they already knew. The most terrifying thing about Capricorn isn't that they're unforgiving. It's that they're precise. Measured. Cold only when necessary. They won't smear your name. They'll just silence their presence. And when you finally realize they're gone, you'll also realize they had every reason to go and they kept every single one. Life lesson from Capricorn. Pay attention to what you repeatedly dismiss. Capricorn is. They won't warn you forever. They won't ask for clarity again and again. They'll just collect enough evidence to make their exit indisputable. And when they leave, they're not confused. They're clear. So next time you think Capricorn forgot what you did, remember, they don't forget. They just finish, in silence. Reason 10, Capricorn has zero tolerance for emotional games. Try to guilt trip them. Try to play hot and cold. Try to disappear and reappear like nothing happened. Capricorn won't bite. They won't ask why. They won't chase you. They won't fight for a space they never begged to be in to begin with. Because here's what people never understand. Capricorn doesn't do chaos. They do clarity. If your presence creates confusion, contradiction, or emotional exhaustion, Capricorn will cut it off like a dead limb. Not in rage. In rhythm, the rhythm of self-preservation. They don't play what if. They don't decode mixed signals. They don't orbit relationships that make them feel less grounded. Their loyalty is real. Their investment is sacred. And when they start feeling like your emotional punching bag, they simply remove themselves from the ring. Let me share a real story. There was a Capricorn named Elise. She had a friend who only reached out when her own life was on fire. Drama. Drama. Disappear. Drama. At first, Elise empathized. Gave her time. Listened. Supported. Until one day, after a series of broken boundaries and toxic cycles, Elise said nothing. She just blocked the number. Deleted the contact. Didn't even explain why. When asked later, she said, "I don't hate her. I just refuse to rent my peace to someone who pays in problems." That's KT. Compassionate until it costs their sanity. Capricorns don't make scenes. They make decisions. And if the emotional math doesn't add up, they'll do what they do best. Balance the ledger. You can be charming. You can be beautiful. You can have history. But if your patterns disrespect their emotional structure, Capricorn will gracefully erase you. No threats. No breakdown. Just a slow fade into irrelevance. Scales #life lesson from Capricorn. Boundaries are not cruelty. They're clarity. KT reminds us that protecting your peace doesn't make you cold. It makes you conscious. And if someone keeps playing games with your time, trust, or energy, you don't need to retaliate. You just need to retreat. Capricorn doesn't ghost people to hurt them. They disappear to heal themselves. And once they go quiet, the next version of them is already under construction. Without you. Reason 11. Capricorn is built for the climb. Pressure only refines them. You can block their path. You can betray their trust. You can even try to break their heart. But here's what you'll never do. Stop a Capricorn from climbing. Because that's who they are. Not just the mountain goat. The mountain itself. They don't just rise. They become the very terrain others fear to cross. When life gets hard, most people slow down. Some retreat. Others collapse. Capricorn, they go up. When things fall apart, Capricorn gets quiet. When pressure mounts, Capricorn gets focused. When storms hit, Capricorn tightens their grip and keeps moving. Because pain doesn't paralyze them, it pushes them. There's a Capricorn I know, his name is Roman. At 23, he lost his job, his partner, and his apartment in 1 month. Most people would have spiraled. He went underground. For 18 months, he worked 2 jobs, studied at night, and lived off black coffee and notebooks filled with blueprints. Today, he's a self-made architect running his own firm. No loans. No favors. No shortcuts. When someone asked how he did it, he said, "I wasn't looking for a lifeline. I was building my own ladder." That's the Capricorn blueprint. Pressure doesn't destroy them, it forges precision. They don't cry out for sympathy. They calculate. They recalibrate. And they rebuild higher, smarter, stronger. They're not fueled by applause. They're fueled by resilience. And every failure, every insult, every betrayal becomes part of the foundation beneath their feet. A new step, a firmer grip, a reason to rise. Here's the part that really shakes people. Capricorns rarely come back to where they left off. They return above you, not to spite you, but because growth is their revenge. Snow-capped mountain life lesson from Capricorn. Don't fear the bottom. Build from it. Capricorn reminds us, the climb isn't punishment, it's purpose. And if you're strong enough to rise through the storm, you don't need to scream at the top, because once you reach the peak, the silence speaks for itself. Reason 12, you'll regret losing a Capricorn, but they won't look back. At first, you don't notice it. They're still kind, still polite, still showing up. But something's changed. You just can't name it yet. That's because Capricorn never walks out emotionally loud. They walk out spiritually done. And once that shift happens, there's no door back in. You'll start to feel it in the little ways. They stop asking how you're doing. Stop texting first. Stop giving you the parts of them that once made you feel seen. You think they're just busy, that life is pulling them away. But in truth, you already lost them. You just didn't hear the sound of them letting go. Because Capricorn lets go like a falling star. Quiet, final, and never coming back. Here's what most people don't understand. Capricorn doesn't leave when things get tough. They leave when things get toxic. They don't cut people off impulsively. They grieve in silence. They process while smiling. They detach long before you notice the absence. So by the time you realize what's happened, you're already on the outside, watching them rise without you. I once spoke to a Capricorn named Myra. Her partner took her loyalty for granted for years. Never respected her time, never truly listened. Thought she'd always be there. Then one day, she just stopped trying. He begged, pleaded, promised. She said nothing, except one line I'll never forget. I gave him every version of me, but the best version. I'm saving that for someone who won't need to be convinced. That's KT power. Not revenge. Refinement. They won't badmouth you. They won't compete with you. They won't wait for you to evolve. They'll become the version of themselves you didn't think they'd reach. And you won't even recognize the person who used to wait for your attention. By then, your regret has already arrived. And Capricorn is long gone. Dove #life lesson from Capricorn. When someone shows you peace, honor it. Because if you take a Capricorn's loyalty for granted, you won't just lose a person, you'll lose a presence. And once they're gone, there's no echo, only silence. And success, that no longer includes you. Never underestimate a Capricorn. So now you know. 12 powerful reasons. 12 truths most people learn too late. Capricorns don't argue. They calculate. They don't seek revenge. They outgrow you. They don't explode. They evolve in silence, in strength, in sacred clarity. You don't hear them roar. You just wake up one day and realize they're gone. Gone from your energy, gone from your access, gone from the version of themselves that ever needed your approval. And what's left behind? A void, a silence, a realization. You had something powerful, and you lost it. Not because they changed, but because you never really saw them to begin with. Capricorns are not the sign you mess with. They are the architects of their own evolution. The climbers of impossible mountains. The ones who carry pain like a blueprint, and use it to build the life others only dream of. They are not loud, but they are lasting. And if you've ever lost one, you already know. That loss is louder than any argument could ever be. Speech balloon, now tell me this. Have you ever witnessed a Capricorn's silent exit? Have you ever felt the weight of their absence more than the presence of others? Or are you the Capricorn who's been underestimated for far too long? Write down pointing backhand index, drop your story in the comments below. We want to hear you, celebrate you, recognize your climb and the silence it took to get there. Because this isn't just another Zodiac video. This is a movement, a revelation, a sacred space for truth and for those who live it without needing to explain. Bell if this resonated with you, if it made you pause, reflect, or see yourself more clearly, then don't just scroll away. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and share this with someone who needs to stop underestimating Capricorn energy. At Zodiac Secrets Revealed, we don't do surface-level astrology. We go deep where the truth lives, where Capricorn thrives. Until next time, honor your peace, protect your climb, and never, ever let the world confuse your silence with weakness again. Capricorn never needed the noise. They were always the mountain,